You are live. Okay.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's another Train Tuesday. And today, of course, is you have Matt and Janek, and we have a guest, Tony Cook, with us today from Model Railroad News. How you doing today, Tony?
Hey, my first question through this whole pandemic thing, and I watch you guys every week, you can see that I've not been able to get my hair done in months. How do you guys keep your hair looking so good through all of this? I mean, that's cool as a cucumber. Both you guys just look polished, and me, I look like I've been under the porch with the dogs. What can you do?
It's tough, but you got to know people.
Oh. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, there were a couple of more items in the July announcement packet, which is open for pre-order right now, that we wanted to cover. And then I think that you had suggested a couple of items that you wanted to talk about within that, to sort of jump back to and share a little bit of Athearn history on one of them. So
cool.
So let's sort of just get started here. We're going to start off with I can find it, the FMC Commodore Boxcar. And I sort of defer a lot of this over to Janek, since he and his team did the bulk of the research on this. But yeah, well, what can you tell us about these, Janek? I mean, these are new paint schemes or just some updated road numbers? What are we looking at here?
What we got here, for the most part, is road names that we've offered in the past, but some very popular ones at that, especially the rail box cars. You want to talk about a car that has longevity. They were first came out in the late 1970s with the early version that you see there on the upper left. And those cars, you can still see them in service today, in that same paint scheme. Mm-hmm. And also you got the later paint scheme on the right with the smaller logo, which is also a scheme that you can still see today. And so Railbox being as popular as it is, I mean, you can't see a train go by without a bunch of Railbox box cars in it. We're offering 6 different road numbers for each scheme, which includes a 3-pack, all with different numbers, and even different numbers than everything we've offered in the past, of course. So no duplicates there. Okay.
And so I guess really the main difference on these, well, the Railbox logo is different as well, but the biggest difference is the blue and red X is different size, of course. So
right. The main difference being the size of the logos, and the reporting mark font is a little bit different as well.
Okay. Then looks like we've got a couple more Railbox cars here, but this time in the Prime for Grime. And I mean, these always do very well for us. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that we're able to keep going with them, is due to the customer feedback and the customer response on these things, and some of the stuff that our art department put together for this Prime for Grime look on these things is just really pretty killer. I mean, I'm impressed every time that these things come out.
Yeah, the first time we announced this type of car, the Prime for Grime, was in 2017. And when the cars hit stores, they sold out super fast and nobody could get them, and everybody wanted them. And people came to us and said, hey, why can't I get these cars? When are you going to make more? This and that. Well, here we are making more. Here are 3 new road numbers, 3 completely different patched, faded, weathered schemes. As you can see on the first car there, it's in the later scheme. Mm-hmm. And it's got what looks like a replacement panel maybe, and some different patches down the side. And the second car is in the original scheme, And the lettering is actually going to be in that lighter yellow because the black had peeled off and left the cleaner paint underneath of it.
Okay.
So that's what gives it that unique look. And actually, the third car to me is the most interesting. It has a replacement plug door from a later scheme car with the small X, but the whole rest of it is still in the original paint.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't caught that. Yeah, you can see the little X on the door. That's
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah. So, now, I mean, what have you sort of heard about these things, Tony? I mean, because again, these Prime for Grimes, they get out there and sometimes they vaporize, sometimes they're unobtainium. I mean, what sort of things do you hear from your constituents, and what are your guys' take on them?
I already had one reviewer when these were announced said, I call the Prime for Grime cars. And I said, we'll probably be lucky to get them. I said, they sell out really fast. I can't resist these cars. I always end up, if I'm at a hobby shop and I'm looking for something, I always have to come up with something extra. Like I'm there for a reason, but then there's, oh, look at this. I can remember at one of my recent trips to like Spring Creek grabbing a couple of the blue rock covered hoppers that were Prime for Grime. They just look so cool. Because, and although I'm a collector, I'm Mr. Don't take it out of the box, don't weather it, don't do this or that. They are so awesome in that, well, they've already got that done, but that's how they came from the factory. So for even for a collector like myself, I still find them neat because they're so unique looking and they're so well done. I mean, weathered cars have been attempted for years, and it's kind of hit and miss on, well, they all look too much the same, or well, it's good, but boy, these things, it's such a great starting point because of the faded paint and the patching you guys do. I mean, it's prototypical and works. It looks great.
Right.
I think the key point from what you said there, Tony, is that it's a starting point. I see some people in the comments, are you going to ever add graffiti, or are you ever going to weather the cars from the factory? And the answer is no. We call it Prime for Grime because it's ready for you to add your own grime and graffiti if you're into that, and other weathering effects. We are not going to do that because, like Tony said, they're all so different in real life. No two cars are alike. We don't want to make all of our cars exactly the same, because then if your buddy has one down at the club, and you won't be able to tell them apart. So that's why we sort of leave the finishing up to the end user. We got it most of the way there. You just have to do a little bit more.
And it's great because you don't have to have that really amazing skill set. Like I could take that car and with either some graffiti decals or like weathering stuff, I could make it look passable. Whereas if you gave me one of the factory fresh ones and said work on it, I wouldn't have the skill to make it look that good. But these are great for those of us that want to do that but probably can't pull it off. This really gives you a leg up on it.
Right. And really, I mean, it wouldn't even take much to get these to look good. Just a light dusting of some weathering dirt or powders or something like that. And I mean, you're off to the races. This isn't something that you have to sit and spend hours on to get this, like the peeled off vinyl look or anything like that,
Right.
Fade the colors. So like Janek said, I mean, it's a starting point, and you can do as much or as little to it as you want. It's awesome. So, but sort of to keep going about these guys, so these three are 3 different road numbers, and they are available separately, so they're not in a 3-pack, and they are all unique to each other. So that's awesome, Janek.
Yeah, the art, like you said, the art guys did a great job on those, making them look just really cool out of the box. Moving on to some of the other road names here. Like I said before, we got some familiar faces, but popular faces. The Canadian National is a very common car that you see out there as well. And the Minnesota, Dakota, and Western, I still see those cars myself, mostly on lumber trains, because MD&W is a lumber associated with lumber. And so that's what those would usually be carrying. We've done the white cars with the green logos in the past, as well as the green cars with the white logos. And It's kind of hard for me to pick my favorite between those. We went with the green cars with the white logos this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I see plenty of those CN cars rolling through here on the Champaign and Chicago sub.
Yeah, they definitely come down south of the border quite often.
Then looks like we got some BC rail here to finish up.
Yeah, the BC rail, which we've done BC rail in the past, but they have a couple different versions. There's the one that just has the BC rail without the flower on it, which is the plain white logo. I prefer this version with the nice colorful logo on it. And we got the ACI plate on there with the wheel dot. So this is going to be good for 1970s look, I believe, and later for these.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was sort of looking into, because the built date on these is 1974, so.
Okay.
Or at least that's what we have on our artwork to show, so. I trust the art department got it right.
It's amazing how that ACI program, which came out of the late 60s, seems like it was gone. You say 74 by that time. But I still remember as a kid, there seemed to be ACI. And even now, I mean, every once in a while you'll see a stray plate on something. But that was its longevity was, oh, yeah, the system never really did much. But, boy, there was stuff with ACI plates on it forever. And then, of course, the wheel dot is that late 70s thing for, what was it, axle problems or something they had. And if it got a yellow dot, it could go and interchange, and a white dot meant that it had to stay on the home road or something, I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you mentioned how long those ACI labels stayed around. I mean, I've been out rail fanning in various parts of the country, and I've even seen some of those ACI plates still attached to the cars. They've, of course, been graffitied over and everything like that, but it's just, wow, is that what I think it is? It is. So it's pretty interesting what's still out there on the road.
Definitely.
So that about...
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Janek.
No, that's it for these road names, like you were going to say.
Okay.
As far as the features on these cars, it's an RTR car. It's a moderately low-priced car. So the brake detail is rather on the basic side, but they have some nice details with the strut steps being separate parts, as well as the end ladders and the etched crossover platforms. So they do have some nice detailed parts on there as well.
Okay. And then these are available in HO scale, but we also have these available in scale as well, don't we, Janek?
Yeah. Yeah. So same exact road names, road numbers, and selections, also available in N scale.
Good, and it's the same paint scheme. So these same Prime for Grime units, we're scaling it down to N for all you N scale guys that want to weather and fade and graffiti up your cars. So this Prime for Grime is still hitting the N scale market too. So good deal. So next we've got on the list, and this was one of the things that I know Tony wanted to discuss, but we brought back after, 11 years, the flat car with the 40-foot flat car with the boat on it. And this is, I mean, heck, I can remember being in the hobby shop as a kid and seeing these little boats. So, I mean, these boats have been around for a long time.
They're very cool. That's, I think the tooling for that stuff goes to the days when Athearn was producing for Lionel, which would be the second run of Lionel's HO, that they went to Rivarossi in Italy originally to introduce their line in the late 50s. And after some production issues, they moved over and had a deal with Irv Athearn. And some of the things that Athearn did was obviously just sell them like the F units and the 40-foot box cars that were already in the line. But it's my understanding like this flat car with boat, the flat car with the airplane, And then they also did a flat car with 2 of the vehicles from the autoloader, are all from around 1959 originally, and were sold for Lionel. And then also in Athearn's line, I think for Athearn, it was Seaboard Airline and Gulf Mobile in Ohio were the 2 roads. And the boats in those days were generic. I see you guys are stamping and doing a couple of color options. I think, as I recall, the boat, the base was one color and the top was another. And I forget, one was like always white and the top was the other. And no, it is not a prototype for the Minnow from Gilligan's Island, because it predates that by about 5 years that was on in the mid 60s. But what a great, this is a really neat piece. And again, it really kind of only, I don't know that Athearn would have really done this if not for the relationship with Lionel, same as the autoloader, the little Evans, which is a one-of-a-kind prototype that New York Central operated, that again, I think these were tooled up as part of that deal, and again, have had a life well beyond what you would have thought. And yeah, it's fun to see these come back. I think, as you say, it's been about 10 or more years since they were in the ready to roll line. So, and they're always a popular piece, with collectors, no matter when they come out. And I went looking, and I don't think I have one of the ready to runs from that last release, and I can't believe I didn't buy one. So I'm sure it's here somewhere. As my dad has said, are you sure that your dog Bandit is not selling things on eBay on you? Because when you can't find stuff, I think he's selling stuff. So I've got to talk to him and look a bit harder, because I've got some old kit versions, and you used to be able to buy the boats. They came in like a blue or yellow box as separate pieces too.
Sounds like your dog is aptly named if he's selling boats.
I hadn't thought of that, but yes, yeah.
So...
Tony, it's interesting that Athearn decided to produce this tooling, because at the time, and this is going to sound like a stretch these days, but they were trying to focus on more realistic looking prototypes, stuff that at least would be commonly seen. And the autoloader and a boat on a flat car is sort of an unusual load, although, there's a prototype for everything, and I have seen photos of boats on flat cars. But it's not exactly common.
Indeed, there is. I think at a couple, I did some looking just on that thought over the weekend in preparation. I think I sent either you or Matt some pictures from Railway Age magazine, which was Simmons Boardman that does the car cyclopedias. There's an Athearn ad. That's from Railroad Model Craftsman's April 1959 edition. And those would all have been new at the time. The 50-foot gondola, the stock car was recent, chemical tank car, and the derrick flat car. And then there's the flat car with the boat. And they did come in those days both in kit form, and Athearn was in ready to roll before it called it ready to roll, that you could get those assembled at the time too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Those light blue boxes, I remember.
Light blue window boxes, and you could buy things that way. They were train sets into the early 60s, about the time the slot car line was abandoned, and that 65, 66 period where like the DD40 and the Jeep 35, all those come out. That's about the end of the original Athearn ready to roll. But all these, if you looked in the catalogs and listings, you'd see they came as a kit, and then they also came as an assembled version. And I think there should be a Lionel. This was an insert also in Railroad Model Craftsman in 1960, part of a 3 or 4 page fold out. And this shows the move from Lionel from River Rossi over to Athearn. The C liners you can see are replaced by Athearn F units up top. And there are the 3 cars. You notice the boat looks a little different. I see that in illustrations early on for the boat, that the top part, like the cabin, is slightly different. And the flat car this is the usual 40-foot flat car, but I guess the proportion or something looks different, because the boat always looks a little smaller, and you don't see the thing holding the airplane in that next picture. And then there's the 2 sedans, which the cars are a little different from Athearn's cars. I've always seen it with the station wagon and the big sedan, but those are more the Finn cars, not these kind of illustrations here. And then the piggyback with flat car, although that's a rib side rounded in like 25-foot pig, they've put that on the Athearn flat. And of course, Athearn did sell the little 25-foot plastic trailers were sold under Lionel's line, as most of the rest of this stuff is Lionel too, or it's Athearn done for Lionel as well. And then Lionel moves from Athearn to their own production later. I think that 4-bay rib side hopper there in Lehigh Valley is an actual Lionel tooling, that they did start producing some things of their own. So if you start looking, you'll find flat cars with some odd loads from Lionel that have nothing to do with Athearn. But those three shown there are classic Athearn pieces sold by Lionel.
Wow. Yeah,
and of course, if you're looking for those two, I think a lot of times you'll see like there's Seaboard on the one, and I said it was Seaboard and GM&O, and they'll have the little circled with the Lionel L stamped on them. So they'll look exactly like an Athearn piece, but you'll see a little white round circled L to show that they're Lionel.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And I think, do we have the railway age? There's a couple of ads too. Here we go. Look at this. Is a company called Lord that produced, you know, some of the upper structure for flat cars. And look at the top left. There's things for a boat. They're Dyna deck cushioning. So you can say that that little appliance on the flat car is Dyna deck cushioning for the boat. And I thought that was neat to see. And this is from, that's the July 26, 1965 railway age. It's an ad. And then I think I have a neat Northern Pacific ad from 61 that's kind of in general promoting NP, but look in the bottom center, they talk about shipping a customer's Chinese boat to Saugatuck, Michigan on a flat car again. So anybody that thought, oh, that's a toy thing, no, there's a lot. I've seen, in fact, I think I ran a picture not too long ago, and I've seen him in our TRP, Trains and Railroads of the Past. He's run pictures of flat cars on boats. So lest you think, oh, this is just a toy way to put a boat on a flat car, they don't really exist. Oh, they sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
So let's talk about specifically some of the versions that we're going to offer this time.
Sure.
As you guys can see, and as Tony pointed out, we do have 3 different colored boats that are coming with the railroad flat cars. So basically what that means is if you buy both of the Chicago Northwestern or both of the Florida East Coast flat cars, they're both going to come with a different color boat. And like I said, there's 3 total. There's a blue and gray, a red and gray, and a white and beige and gray. And the boats are really nice. They've got lots of detail printing, numbers and printed lights on them, and they have names and lakes where they are based in, printed on the backs, which you can't see in this view, but it's there.
Wow.
Okay.
And you know, that's amazing about some of these vintage pieces. And I can't tell you how many times I will look at something 2 or 3 times thinking, what did they change about this? That can't be the same tooling for that boat, or that can't be that same piggyback. And I'll look at it and just realize, no, it's some of that, either it's reflectors, you know, called out on the vans in yellow or red, or like this printing things on the back of that boat, that suddenly it's like, oh, wow, that is the same model. It's just amazing how good it looks with that a little bit more attention to it that you get now.
Yeah, and it means that if somebody wanted to use this boat as actually a boat, as a piece of scenery, it would look really good, and it'd be ready for that as well. Or maybe someone has a boat trailer or a pickup truck that they wanted to use this with. That would be another option. So that does it for the railroad boats. We decided also to do something a little different this time and produce some U.S. Armed Forces themed boats and flat cars. So what we decided to do for the flat cars is to make them DODX, which would be Department of Defense, and they're painted in olive drab, and they are all different numbers. So there's 8 total road numbers for the flat cars here. And we did 4 different boats as well. So starting with the Coast Guard, you know, these are all based on actual real life paint schemes in the armed forces. Of course, our boat is only one kind of boat. It's not accurate for these different kinds of boats, but the paint schemes that we've chosen are accurate for those different service branches. So we've got the Coast Guard here, and then we got the United States Air Force, and people are asking me, well, why does the Air Force have boats? Well, this is a rescue boat. So it's for water rescue of, say, downed pilots or something. That is how those boats look. And then the United States Navy here with the light gray and with the black underneath. And then over on the left is the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, engineering boat.
Those all look spectacular. I'm going to have one of each of those. Those will probably be hard to come up with, too. I'm going to get those reserved.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
It's
Matt.
it's one of those things that, you know, so a lot of people might think it's a little gimmicky or something like that, but then as soon as it sort of comes out, it's, oh man, that's cool, I need to find one, and then they become unobtainium, you know.
I always hear that when you guys years ago did, I think, Chessie and Rio Grande, like -9s, I got more email. Oh, why? How come they're not doing? Why? And then they were gone immediately. And then the same a year or two ago, you did, was it a Northern Pacific SD50? And then it was all the hill roads, Burlington, Great Northern, and who am I missing? Somebody else in the -9s. I've gone blank. And I ordered each. I had those reserved and brought them in, and immediately, all sold out. And again, you always hear that, well, how come they're doing those? Those aren't, prototype. But then again, it's like, well, try to buy one. Somebody out there's buying them. It's not just me. It's like, they're very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
2 things. Oh, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I was going to say it at least boggles my mind, as we get so much, shall we say, constructive criticism about doing some of those fantasy roads, and then they just disappear, like you said. So yeah, somebody is buying them.
Right.
Yeah, and there are a lot of model railroaders who were formerly part of the military. So there's that. This would appeal to them. And then there's a lot of military collectors out there who maybe aren't model railroaders, but this would appeal to them as well. So
yeah.
And that always makes that kind of stuff tougher too later to collect, because you're suddenly competing not just with model train guys, but there's people that are interested in it for this. So yeah, those things can be even tougher to come up with.
And we produced military themed locomotives in the past too. You got the Desert Storm SD40-2 for Union Pacific. You've got the 1943 that we produced, as well as the Norfolk Southern Veterans Unit, and those were all extremely well received.
Right.
We're not doing anything that new with the military stuff.
Yeah, all those SD60Es were wildly well received. So it sounds like that's about it for those boats, though, guys. I mean, pretty good information and a little bit of a history lesson there for sure. Thanks for supplying us with those flyers, Tony. That was neat stuff to see, because I didn't know that Athearn was so involved with Lionel back in the day, or they had a mutual agreement, rather.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Lionel, like it's 57 or 8 announces HO the first time, and it was all set up through Italy with Rivarossi, and they had some issues and moved to Athearn second, and then they buy the John English hobby line. That's where they get their FA and some of the other pieces, and then they do run their own stuff from the early 60s to, I think, 66 is the last year of the first run of Lionel HO. But lots of history and lots of diversity in that about 5-6 year run. And a great piece for if you're an Athearn collector. There's this whole other wing of whether it's the rectifiers or these kind of things. There's suddenly these classic Athearn pieces that have this Lionel aspect that you got to have those too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Matt. So I think we got one more car to talk about.
And it would be the 50-foot double-door boxcar.
And see, I immediately see 4 of those. This is the problem. Every time you announce things, I open the PDF, I start looking through them like, I'm going to have the New York Central, the Illinois Central, the Gulf Mobile in Ohio, and that Great Northern Big Sky Blue. So there's half of the run I'm already committed to, especially the GM&O with the big wings underneath the Gulf Mobile in Ohio. That's awesome.
All right. We know Tony's weak spot now.
We've got him now. No, but Tony, you probably remember this car too. It's a very old tooling Athearn car. It's been around for a long time. It was originally a blue box model. The doors on it, as many people know, are operating sliding doors, and they do have those sort of oversized door claws on them. But what it means is that the doors can be opened, closed, or positioned however you want, which was important for younger modelers to say, hey, you know, I can load my boxcar now. I can actually put things inside of it.
This, and it dates to, it's also about 1960. And what's interesting here is, I don't know if this is its first time to go to the Roundhouse line, but it was in the Roundhouse line before that. There was, in the early 60s, Charlie Mintier, that ran Model Die Casting Roundhouse, was friends with Irv Athearn, and they sold a lot of Athearn freight cars in the Roundhouse line, but they were not just straight versions of Athearn cars. You could get this car, but it had the metal die-cast underframe produced by Roundhouse with their wheel set, so everything underneath inside the shell was produced by Model Die Casting, but it had the Athearn shell on top. So this actually is a return for this car to the Roundhouse line for the first time since, I think, about 1960 is when I remember seeing ads for it, when plastic was new and Roundhouse was still doing a lot of metal cars. This was one of their ways into beefing up their line and getting injection molded plastic, is they got Athearn cars and then put their metal underframes on them. So in a roundabout way, this car has come home again now to the Roundhouse line.
I did not know that, but that's interesting how it has come full circle like that.
And this is such a classic steam to early diesel era, you know, this 50-foot double door car like this. I mean, these cars hung around from, they could run at the very, you know, into steam all the way up into like the 1970s. So as you can see from the paint schemes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like Tony said, we've got 7 road names here with 3 road numbers apiece. And a lot of these are new paint schemes for this car. For example, the B&O with the Sentinel Service logo. I don't believe that one's ever been produced before. And that's a really neat logo that didn't seem to be that common on the B&O.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that in any prototype books.
I remember their Time Saver, was it Time Saver? That had the big burst on the side of, like, it was a blue car with orange. But yeah, that Sentinel Service is another thing that didn't quite have the same impact, or you don't remember it as much. But yeah, it's a classic B&O.
Right. And then, like you said, the Gulf Mobile in Ohio, the Sioux line, and the Great Northern. I always enjoyed the Big Sky Blue scheme. It's too bad it was only technically in use for 3 years. I still thought it was a nice looking scheme.
It is a good line. I've never actually been able, I know it's Lippincott and Margulies out of New York, that ad agency that also did the pointless arrow for Amtrak. They did do the BN logo. They do the CP Rail Multimark. That agency did a lot of this modern 60s branding. And yeah, it's like 67, and then March of 70 is Burlington Northern. And I've always wondered if this wasn't maybe an idea for this would have been the BN scheme, because a lot of the Great Northern locomotives had the separate placards put on, like the handrail stanchions for Great Northern. So in effect, you could take that off and then maybe letter them BN. And I've had some people say, yeah, it was an option, but then wasn't. But I don't know. I've never really had serious proof on, was Big Sky a test for, because remember at the same time too, CB&Q adopted that Cascade green with the hockey stick and everything. They had an early scheme that came in at the same time that did basically become BN's look. So I've often wondered too if this wasn't a dry run for, well, we may go blue.
Could be. And then also, like, similarly to the combo door box cars earlier that we talked about, these cars are also available in N scale. would like to note that the doors on that car are not operable, but it is a very nice car. It's a Pullman standard prototype, and it actually is a very well done N-scale 50-foot double-door boxcar. And you'll have all the same paint schemes and row numbers in N-scale. So.
Good deal. So, so really in this month's announcement packet, we've got 3 new runs of N-scale product as well. So we've got the ethanol tank cars, which we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got these 2 boxcar releases, the FMC combo door boxcar that we were talking about a little bit ago, and then the double door 50-foot double door boxcar that we were just talking about. So N-scale has been well represented this month. So
yeah, I would agree.
So good deal. So what else we got today? I know, Tony, you just recently picked up a new release from us that you were pretty happy with. And
I did. Yeah, and there's some pictures I shot of it the other day. That's your F59 PHI.
mm-hmm.
That I got that in my box from Spring Creek in Nebraska. Got some stuff the other day, and man, I'm really impressed. I bought it because as we were talking about fantasy paint schemes, I can't help myself. Now that I have this, I think I got to get the Union Pacific that you also did, and I got a DCC sound version of this one. The ditch lights alternate when you hit the air horn, and man, it has got a lot of heft. I haven't weighed it yet to see, and I haven't done a pull test on it. But I shot some pictures. I think it really looks great. And if you're looking for a stand-in, I'm going to have to give a quick plug here to one of your competitors. There's ski train cars everywhere right now, you know. In fact, they came in that same box with this. And it's like, oh, good. I've got something different to pull with those. This is that 4-stripe Rio Grande scheme. And I don't know, Janek, did you guys on purpose? I see the 5800 number, which, you know, the last of the Rio Grande F units was the set of F9s they bought, 5771 to 5775. And so this is perfect that it's 5800 because it's kind of that what if of, well, this would have been next in line in their F unit numbering system, you know, had they gone that way. But what an awesome piece, either for a Rio Grande Zephyr what if or a ski train power. And what a great model.
Well, like you said, Tony, with these freelance fancy paint schemes, more goes into it than most people think. And we usually don't just pick stuff willy-nilly. We look at what the real railroad had and what they were doing at the time, how they were paying their locomotives, how they were numbering their locomotives, and in some cases what options they were specifying. And so like you said, by numbering these in the 5800s, they are still F units, technically. So they represent a additional order for F units that would be after the F9s. And we also paid attention to the paint schemes and all the different paint masking on them, with like the black ends, the black trucks, and the way that the striping wraps around on the roof there. We made it match the F units, or adapted it at least to fit this model in ways that would make sense. So.
And I think that's always a key when you do something like that. A lot of times when I see them, it's like, wow, that's a little heavy-handed for, you know, an Athearn Hustler with like a centennial size UP shield on it is a bit much. But when you do it with some reason like this, and especially that attention, like doing the back end of it's black, you know, everything about it is like, if it was real, that's probably what it would look like. Because I think you only had the line drawings online. And so until I had it out of the box and flipped it around and saw them, like, oh, wow, look at that. It's like, it really gives an authentic look. But yeah, what a neat. And I think is that the first, I think that may be the first new tooled Athearn ready to roll locomotive. I know it's the first N-scale locomotive, and the first runs were done by, I think, Ajin in Korea for you guys. And then the HO model, I think, is one of the first ready to rolls offered, like in 2003.
2001, and it was the first new tooled RTR locomotive. Yes.
It's a very neat piece. That's such a unique And then, of course, you do have, I think, in that group, there's, as I say, there's some what ifs. And I think you have some of the, Southern California or Amtrak related schemes might be in this. Oh, look, I forgot that Black Widow SP. Yep. Yeah, I may have to get that too now to go with the UP.
Yeah. So there's the SP Black Widow and then the UP. And then I think the rest of them were all transit agencies. But then, of course, we've got the special paint scheme California units. So, and then the Metro units, those were new for this product release.
Right.
Because
those had just been sent over there at the time, I think.
Right. So all the Surfliner F-59s were sold to Metro here in Chicago. And so those have all been transferred and are running up in Chicago now. So.
Oh, are they still running now, Matt? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This was actually their quote unquote new power for a while. This was to replace the aging.
Did Matt freeze? Yeah, I hadn't realized that those were. I thought that was an older unit than that. And then what the green Amtrak is that Cascades, Pacific Northwest? Which one is that, Janek?
Yes. That was the Cascades running with the Talgo cars.
Yeah.
Until recently, now they're running with Charger locomotives.
But yeah, it's an awesome. And as I say, when I pick this thing up, I know I have some of these older ones because of its notoriety of being the first tooled ready to roll piece. And man, I had forgotten how heavy these were. And that surprised me. Something's happened to my amazing camera here.
We possibly lost Matt. He was having issues with his internet intermittently, which is unfortunate. But while we wait to see if he's going to rejoin us, I did get a couple of Boxcar Samples recently in the mail, and I will...
You mean you get some trains too? That was one thing. I know why he ran away, because he knew this was coming. That every week... and I think it's harassment. He shows you all this neat stuff that he gets, and then I'm thinking, well, what does Janek get here? He's doing a lot of this work. It's like, I feel bad. I got to send Janek some trains because look at all the stuff Matt shows us. So while he's gone, I just want to say that now that I was going to get on his case, that I saw all those -9s and everything else, thinking, well, there's something not right here. But Janek needs to have some fun with these early samples too. So what have you got? You got some boxcars?
Well, I don't know if I can. Let me. I'm trying to share my screen here, and I'm not sure if it's even going to work with Matt being disconnected like that. We may just go right into the questions, but give me a second here.
There's my camera.
Let's see if that goes up. I just got a text. Matt, my internet died. Yeah.
Oh. They've been having some bad weather up that way. I know that I saw a message from Jeff at Lombard Hobbies up in the Chicago area. I think they were without power yesterday for a while because of the storms. So
yeah, he's been
rough weather.
So poor guy.
Well, there we go. With him gone, I've now stated for the world that Janek needs to get the samples from China. I think
sometimes, yeah.
We'll
So I was having trouble sharing my screen too. I'll post those photos up on Facebook for everyone to see after the show. Let's just take the last 15 minutes here and go over some of these questions that I'm seeing in the audience. I won't be able to highlight them because I am not the host of the show, but I will try and read the question out so that you guys know what I'm talking about. There was a question at 1:58 p.m. from Jeremy Johnson, and he was talking about some prices for Athearn stuff on eBay. And I wanted to sort of respond to that and say that we don't have anything to do with prices on eBay. I've seen stuff go for way more money on there than I think it should have. And I've seen stuff that was basically stolen because it got such a low price. eBay is sort of an enigma, and it sort of reflects the market, but it sort of doesn't.
Yeah, it's tough. I get a lot of questions like that where someone will say, well, what is this worth? Or I saw this one on eBay for this or that. And it's like, well, all it takes is two people that absolutely have to have that piece of Tyco or AHM, and it can go crazy. And then it can come up tomorrow for nothing and sit for a week and get no bids. So, yeah. Although I do notice I've been trying to get some of your old P42s, because of the new versions coming out, and I have a blue box, but I don't think I had it ready to roll. I've been trying to track those down, and I can see why you're doing those again. That, man, those always seem to go for good money. And I keep thinking, come on, guys, quit buying these. I just need one for the review later to say, here's the old version of the model. There's a new one coming out. Wait for the new one.
Everyone was so worried when we announced the new one that the prices would plummet on the existing ones, and that just hasn't been the case.
I haven't seen it, no.
Let's see. I'm looking at another question. I saw a few people talking about B units, specifically like SD45Bs, SD45-2Bs, and why don't we make anything like that? And the answer tends to be that the B units were homemade in a lot of cases. There are exceptions, of course, the GP60Bs for Santa Fe, the Union Pacific B units of the 1960s, like the GP30Bs and the SD24Bs. Yes, those were production models and they were standardized. But most of the B units that you're talking about, like the Santa Fe SD45-2Bs, those are all homemade by Santa Fe. And they're all a little bit different from each other. And it makes it tough to justify cutting steel tooling just so that we can make something like that. That was only good for Santa Fe. When we go and we consider, what new projects we should be working on, we try and say, well, what's going to give us the most bang for the buck? What is going to be the most road names, the most versions? That's how we announce the -9s, because of all the different versions that gives us and the potential for future models. So at the risk of droning on for too long, but that's more or less why you haven't seen the B units, just because it's a tough sell compared to some other projects that we could be working on with our time. Let's see what else. I'm looking for some questions here.
Have you gotten your reminder yet on California cars this week?
I didn't see the weekly reminder for California cars.
I'll put in the reminder, even though I wouldn't buy him. I feel like I'm going to help this guy out. So reminder there for you for the California cars.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because while the cars are only in service in California and only in certain parts of California for that, but most people that travel to California, they'll end up seeing those cars, or they'll end up riding on those cars. And so that's why I think it's a good project, because even if you're not from around here, it's likely that if you visited, that those cars, you've maybe even ridden in them, and you have a personal interest in them. So maybe I've said too much. But I'm definitely interested in us producing those cars. We see all the requests. We're not ignoring you guys. So, hey, looks like I can get Matt back.
Matt, I'm happy to tell you I'm glad you're back. Janek has just named me the head of Athearn. Our first project is a Genesis 2.0 update of the old Lionel rectifier. We're really far into the project, but keep up with me here. I'm going to give you some quick notes, okay?
Okay, I'll get my pencil.
And it's actually going to be powered by rectifiers, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Overhead canter is going to really work, and it'll go up and down and everything. Oh, this is going to be sweet. Oh, yeah.
Well, it seems that you guys made a lot of progress without me. So can I go home then?
I did get in the plug for the California cars for the week.
Okay, all right.
So
Yeah,
we did at least accomplish that.
Okay.
The weekly request for that, and how I think it's a good project because, like I said, even if you don't live in California, it's possible that you've visited and ridden on those cars or seen those cars. So.
Yep. And, you know, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, but one of the shows that we were doing, gosh, I think it was in the winter season of 2015, because it was one of the world's greatest hobby shows. And we were in Louisville, Kentucky. And we had a father and his young son come up to us, and, you know, we want to suggest a product, and he go ahead and coerced his son. He goes, "Go ahead and tell him." And he goes, "I want Amtrak California passenger cars." And it's like, wait a minute, there's this kid, 8-year-old kid, Louisville, Kentucky, that wants Surfliner cars? Cool. So I think they would be well received for sure if somebody were working on them.
Yeah, I would agree.
So anyway, I don't know where we left off. I don't know. I guess we were sort of talking about those F-59s, and then I bit the dust. So I don't know. Did you guys sort of move on to the question and answers, or how are we handling this?
We had moved on to the questions, although I was going to say, Matt, I couldn't share my screen when you were gone.
Yeah. Since I'm sort of the originator of it, I have the dashboard. So.
Let me try that again. I did want to quickly show off a couple of boxcars that I got in the mail, a couple of first decorated samples. So here on the other website, the cars I'll be showing you guys are the ATWs right here. So SKUs 87445 or 443 to 445, and then the AG cars, so 87458 to 60, 60. So anyway, there they are.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
So is that ATW a prime for grime car?
It's technically not, because I mean, yeah, technically it's got patches on it and it's faded, but we didn't really go all out with patching and fading on that car because the real ones are still pretty new and still pretty clean, although they're already been patched. So I don't know the story on those, but they didn't really fit the Prime for Grime moniker. We usually reserve that for the more heavily patched and faded cars.
Okay. So this is just a number and reporting mark patch out then.
Yeah, those are how the real cars look. So that's why they're like that.
That's how what they move all that up high for because they get tagged with graffiti, I think. Is that right?
That's true. Yes. And I want to zoom in here on this printing here. You know, even though this is an RTR level car, this is the plug door FMC box car. We got quite a bit of printing here on the end. That's 6 different lines of data and the road number, and the tack board is a different color. And I think it looks great. So even though it's RTR, and then there we got the AG, which is the Stone Container Corporation, a really neat looking logo there.
Yeah, that's a neat car.
And I'm not sure the story behind these cars. From my research, it was a late 1980s, early 1990s era car, and AG being the reporting marks for the Stone Container Corporation. There's a little bit close up. So these cars look great. I didn't have any issues with them. I thought that the printing was really nice. So these are going to be approved.
Good deal. Yeah, that's one of the things I know that we changed a number of years ago that I'm not sure that was really noticed or not, but we changed the color that we're painting the roofs on these things, that well, for lack of a better term, the galvanization for the roof because we used to do that in the silver, but now we've got it in like a metallic gray sort of color, and it just really looks much more prototypical compared to just that bright silver. So
I don't know if you did it, but on those 40-foot, in fact, I guess I just put them away because I thought it was sitting here to my left. Those little 40-foot modern cars, I bought 3 or 4 of those, and that was one thing I kept thinking. One of these, there's something a little different about them, and yeah, I think it's that silver color of the roof is a more authentic looking and not the real kind of shiny in-your-face silver.
Right.
And someone was asking if these grab irons and steps are separate parts, and the answer is yes. They are separately applied parts on these cars. They have a very thin profile, and I think they look great. So that is what I had to share. So I'll go ahead and stop the screen, and we can get back for a couple more minutes of questions.
Yeah, we've probably got about 5 minutes left here to go, guys. We try to keep this at about an hour, so we can take a couple of more questions here before time runs out. And don't forget, I mean, we have Tony Cook with us, so if anybody has some model railroad news or magazine questions or something like that, he can answer your questions on that too.
And I'll put up the things that we showed earlier, those railway age and some of the vintage Athearn stuff. I'll put on Model Railroad, or actually on HO Collector's Facebook page. So the quarterly publication that I do with White River Productions on Old HO, I'll put that stuff over there. And then I'll put these F-59 pictures up on Model River News's Facebook as well.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent. So anybody that was watching and wanted to see those ads a little bit closer in detail, you'll be able to go find them on their Facebook pages. So.
And if anyone was wondering, those cars, the pre-orders are technically closed. They will be in production soon. But check with your dealers and stores. They may have some available.
And which car was that, Janek?
The 2 cars that we just showed, the AG and the A2.
Oh. Okay, all right. So, right, those were those deco samples or production samples?
Deco samples.
Okay, so that means those will be here in about 4-ish months, I think.
Yeah.
So, okay, good deal. Let's see. Bill Smith, run the Centennials again, 2.0. I need the 6900. I wrote on that one. We got some good things coming, Bill, for the DDA 40Xs. So hang on and keep your eyes on future announcements. Are the AD Max still slated for early January? At this time, yes, they are. I know that we have been working with the factory to get some final production things wrapped up and tied up, and they should still be on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I have that 80 Mac, I think, is you've got Conrail in that bunch. Mm-hmm. I have Kaylee Zhang lined up to review that. She works on jet engines for like airplanes and stuff and lives out east and works at, I forget the name of the train store now. She's going to be upset that I didn't mention it, but she's going to be doing her first review for Model Railroad News on that 80 Mac and Conrail.
Great.
Nice.
Well, you've got the direct contact if she has any questions. So. This one's for you, Tony. Junior Luciano is asking how to get a hold of you.
You can go to our Facebook. I answer the things on Model Railroad News and HO Collector, so you can message there on Facebook, and then you can also find my email address on going to modelrailroadnews.com, and you'll find in like the contact stuff that I'm there too. So, and it's tcook@whiteriverproductions.com. So, and that's for any of the magazines. You can drop me an email. And I do answer my emails, as you guys do too. You know, I think a lot of people like, oh, email and nobody will ever answer. And I get that a lot where people say, wow, you answered in like 5 minutes. It's like, well, yeah, because I'm always here working on train stuff. And especially if you ask me something cool or neat, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Let me go scan that. I think I got a picture of that. There you go.
Yeah. There's been a couple of requests that I've sent over to Tony, and let me go see what I got. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost too fast. Whoa.
Let's see. Matthew Shue. When are the new Santa Fe ICC cabooses supposed to arrive?
Yeah. When are those going to arrive?
Those are on the water right now, and they should be here at the end of this month and should be shipping, I believe, in the beginning of September. So it should be early to mid-September delivery on those.
Now, is that UP Burlington? Will we get all those at once?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I've got some. Okay. All right. Keep going. Yeah, I can afford it. Maybe.
Call your credit company and.
So yeah, the first announcement from a year ago is what is shipping. Will be shipping in September. So that's CB&Q, Fort Worth and Denver, Santa Fe, Seaboard Airline, Union Pacific CA8 class, B&O, Chessie, and then the SP Cotton Belt C50-5. So all those cabooses will be coming in. So
that's a lot.
Let's see. Let's take about one or two more, and then I think we'll call it a day, guys. Greenbrier 72-foot cryo-transponder reefer with working green LED lights and GPS refrigerator units. Seriously considering that as a project. We've got a couple of other things that we need to investigate before we were to dive on in head first on that one. But that is a serious contender right now. So
those are those big white like French fry cars, I think. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah. And let's see. Where'd it go? Oh, here's one for you, Tony. When will the new resource page be completed?
We ported over my HO Trains resource from its original hosting site. I started it in May of 2000, and which is weird to think that was over 20 years ago. And it's now on a White River hosted site, so there'd be no ads other than White River's things. And I had hoped it would all like port over and be flawless, but it's had a lot of things to do. And because it's got everything from Athearn, AHM, Cato, Mantua, Bachman. Yeah, I'm still working on that. So I do the best. It's hoscaletrains.com is where you can find it and the different links for things. What I try to do is when people ask me questions, I go and dig out catalogs and information on various things and we'll like work a page. That's usually about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. When I'm like, okay, let me do the Athearn whatever train sets from 1962 and I'll put a page up for it. But it is still happening. It's just on my list, unfortunately.
Okay.
And you guys know how that is, right? Don't you? You're always juggling projects, and if I just need more hours in the day, yeah.
Yeah, you can't see my whiteboard that is strategically behind the camera. So
yeah.
So and one more real quick here. Where did it go? Buffalo and Pittsburgh triclopses. So I've had a couple of people asking us for those. I don't remember. I'd have to go back, dig through some emails because I had somebody reaching out for me for some of the SD60Ms that were recently acquired over in the Northeast. I just don't remember if it was B&P or if it was someone else. But the Genesee and Wyoming B&P SD60M triclopses would be definitely worth pursuing. I'm not sure if that would be a second or third run type announcement. So just sort of keep your eye on the announcements and hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised. So, and with that, I think that we're going to call it a day, gentlemen.
I got one thing I wanted to mention and I've forgotten. Michelle Kempema at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. Mm-hmm. I think they're going live this week. They've got a special run from you guys of Athearn. It'll be in the Athearn Collectibles box. They have a red CNS with the Burlington Route logo inside the Railroad Museum if you've ever been there in Greeley, Colorado. Those go on sale, I believe, this week, and it'll be a benefit for the Model Railroad Museum up there, which is such a great place. I don't know if you guys have been to it. before, but yeah, it is so awesome. But I talked to Michelle this week, and she said that they should be on the website. So that's the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, and I'll have links on the Model Railroad News Facebook page with pictures of the car. But it's a red C&S caboose that you guys did as a special run for them, and those will be available. I think they're available now or will be live soon.
Okay, good to know. I knew that those were heading out to Michelle soon, but I haven't been keeping up with the tracking on this. So thanks for the information. And another quick little note, because your note made me think of it, but this Thursday, I will be going live with Ken Bianco Jr. at Train World and Trainland for a live event discussing the Dash 9s again. So be sure to tune in Thursday. I believe it's 5 Central, so 6 p.m. Eastern. Listen to Kenny and I talk GEs. So
He's a lot of fun. I like Ken a lot. Yeah,
he's a good guy.
I'll be watching for that.
All right. And with that, now I think we're ready to sign off. So thank you, Tony, for joining us today and bringing your information. Janek, thanks for covering the new product developments that you and your team have been working on. And as always, stay safe out there, everyone. Happy modeling, wash your hands, and tune in next week.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
All right. You too, guys.